Hello, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. This is Sundu Ratnam, Chief Technology Officer at Chainsys. Very glad to be with all of you today. And we have a special guest with us today, our great customer, great friend, Samir Mehta. And Samir, would you like to show your face and introduce yourself? Thank you.
I'm hoping you can see me. Hi everybody, and I want to wish everybody first and foremost a happy New Year and all the best for this coming year. I know it's been a tough one for everybody, but hopefully we can turn the corner here and have a great year, everyone, all around. So happy New Year once again. And by the way of introduction, so this said, my name is Samir Mehta. I have been working as the chief data executive for several organizations across multiple industries, from financial services to consumer product goods and into manufacturing. And I'll bring my unique perspective across all of those different industries during the next 30 minutes or so of this webinar. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Samir, for joining this wonderful Quest for Knowledge session. And today's session, we are going to be focused on one of the most interesting topic, which is the data catalog and also the data security. Mm-hmm. These two, we're going to see how we can connect the dots. And Samir, you have great experience in both these areas. Pretty much, I just wanted to ask you, in your thought process, how would you define a data catalog, and what kind of a use case that we can think about solving using data catalog?
I think it's a very broad question, but I'll do my best. But I think the data catalog is the absolute starting point of any data program and data journey that you're going to go on, right? Because without it, you are starting from step sub-zero, right? Because you don't know where your data has to go in the organization if there isn't a data catalog that's up and running already. So it's going to make your job as well as the entire team's job that much more difficult if you don't know what data you need to manage. Right? Data catalogs tell us a lot of different things, right? But most importantly, it tells you what are the most critical data assets in an organization, right? And once you know what those are, you can then start to put a proper management program and governance program on those data assets, right? And everything that you do downstream is going to be affected by how enriched that data catalog is. So there are several use cases for a data catalog, but the first and foremost, it's the starting point. Before we get into any specific use cases, it is the absolute starting point in any data journey, right? So as an example, tomorrow, if you start a new job as, let's say, chief data executive at an organization, the first thing you should be able to ask is, can you see the data assets of the organization, right? Because if you can't have transparency in the centralized location to what those data assets are, you are really up against the proverbial 8-ball in trying to figure out what they are, and you spend a lot of time and inordinate amount of time collecting data assets into a data catalog rather than actually putting it to a right? So it's starting point.
Great, Samir. Thank you. And so what I'm hearing on the data catalog, it is a starting point. That's what Samir is sharing with us. So for any data project, this is not an end. It is definitely a starting point to understand what is what all data assets our enterprise or organization carries. Great. So let's move on to another interesting topic within the data catalog. There are so many interesting functions or important areas that we can spend more time. The first thing is about the metadata management. Let's get into metadata management. What is metadata management, and why this is so important for an enterprise?
So the way I see metadata, I think most of the organizations see metadata are that there are three most important collection points to metadata. It was the technical metadata, it's the operational metadata, and then to me, the most important metadata is the business metadata. And any data catalog, if developed correctly, right, can generate operational and technical metadata for you as data assets in the catalog, right? But where they fall short is the ability to collect business metadata, because that is where you actually need the business unit's involvement in order to get what that metadata is, right? So that is where. So when I say that this is a starting point in any data journey, that collection of business metadata is how the data organization and the technology organization interacts with the business organization, right? And the centerpiece to that is the data catalog and the enrichment of that data catalog, right? Should you start a new job tomorrow and the data catalog is already there, you can go in and query to see if there's operational and technical metadata, if there is business metadata. If there is, great on the business metadata side. That means that catalog was developed in partnership with the business as well as the data organization, which at that point in time, you know that there is a very strong partnership between those two entities, right? Which is very critical for any data organization to succeed. However, if it falls short on the business metadata, that's where you should start, right? Start that dialogue with the business, your business partnerships, to collect and enrich what that business metadata is, because that is going to serve you much further down the road as you move into let's say analytics and reporting for the organization. That business metadata will become that much more important. An example of that very simply is data quality, right? Are you measuring the data quality of your data assets, right? Are you grading the data quality? Is it an A, B, or C, or D level asset, right? Because as that data moves itself into a report or analytics engine, you want to ensure that there's only high quality, A quality data reaching that analytics engine. Because if it's not, then you're going to result in an analytics that's not correct, causing inefficient business decisions to be made, right? So that is just an example of an importance of business metadata.
Great, Sumer. So you gave multiple dimensions to the metadata management, and really enjoyed that conversation. I want to move on to the PII, the personally identifiable information, which is talked quite a lot nowadays, having got the cybersecurity and all the compliance such as GDPR, CCPA, opt-in, opt-out, and many other regulations which are out there. Just wanted to understand the importance, you being the data guru, I want to understand what is the importance of these PII, right? And, and I know that it's very complex to identify them. And, can you throw some suggestions how to go about this critical problem of identifying this personally identifiable information or the sensitive data?
Yeah, so that's essentially data that tells you about me as an individual, as an example, right? And that's data that's private to you, right? It's private to those individuals that you would like to share it with, but it's not there for public display, right? So we have to be very careful on what data assets we bring in to the data catalog, just to keep that thought in mind, and that those data assets are flagged as PI, right? Because if they're not flagged as PI, they may be allowed to go into certain types of reporting and analytics engines that you don't want them to go to. So then you'll be out of compliance, right? Without the proper entitlement and permissioning given to that data asset to travel down a certain path further into the ecosystem, you are going to find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in. So it's very critical that in each catalog that is collected into the data catalog itself has to have the ability to identify PI data, right? So that is why it's very critical that we do that the right way. And as Sundu mentioned, there's definitely those regulations out there in GDPR and CCPA that you have to be very careful about. And then and if you don't have a catalog, then how are you going to identify PI data in an organization? Well, you just can't. You simply can't. And you'll have the PI data stored in a spreadsheet or someplace in a table somewhere where that's not the most appropriate way to do that, right? So that is another function and another dimension of why a data catalog is very important. And that flagging it PI is an example of metadata, right? That it is private. That's flagged as private, right? And there will be certain classifications under the PI segment that you can further define some further metadata about that particular PI data asset. But that is why it's really critical, because you do not want that to travel into parts of the organization that do not have the entitlements, the permissions to view that data.
Great, Samir. And the PI, the personally identifiable information, can be in structured and also the unstructured data, such as an Excel or a PDFs, which are lying all over the desktops of different people. How do we identify them? Did you go through identifying PII against unstructured data as well?
Yeah, you absolutely. That's a little bit more challenging than it is just by scanning tables in a database or a repository. But yes, that is, just in a simple email exchange between two individuals in a company, you will have PI erroneously given out, right? I'll give you a personal example where one place where I was working, people were trying to find out for some reason what my address was, because they wanted to send me something because it was my birthday, right? And so what happened is an individual who knew my address shared that with someone who didn't know, right? And all of a sudden, what you just did is you just shared someone's PI data with somebody else, right? That did not have that entitlement or permission to see it, right? So in a very innocent communication, both of these individuals were, part of the team. So, so that was in the safe zone, if you will. But that's just a very innocent communication that happened that resulted in a quote-unquote PI violation, right? So that is an example of an unstructured situation where you would have to be able to, very innocent again, right? But very difficult to almost manage, right? So a little bit more difficult on the unstructured side because of these types of examples, these types of situations. But yes, you would have to, for completeness of PI, you would have to look at the unstructured data as well.
Wonderful, Samir. And, you touched on how important the PII identification is, within the catalog. And I can see the greatness of doing that. And can you share any real life experience of how, having done this, how this was, useful for an organization?
Yeah, it's very simply when you are protecting that PI data, right? It's purely for regulation purposes why you would do this, right? And it's very simply when auditors come in to an organization and they have every right to audit you, especially if you're a public company. It happens time and time again, right? And the best way to keep audit out of your work area is to prove to them that you know what you're doing, right? And If you can be very organized in the fact that you have cataloged the proper data, we have cataloged and classified it as PI, very quickly they will turn around and go away, right? And then they won't come back for a while, right? Or they may not come back at all, right? Because you know what you're doing. On the other hand, if they come in and they ask for, let's say, 12 different reports, right? And they could be any 12 reports, but if there happens to be any one of those reports where PI data has made its way to that report that should not have been there, then you're going to be in big trouble, right? So be organized, ensure you classify PI data the right way, and keeping audit out of your domain will only allow you to further your domain business value-wise, as opposed to being trapped in audit defense constantly.
Thank you, Samir. And I want to go back to the metadata management. Because the metadata about the important entities can be hundreds of attribution, or sometimes even more than that. I know that some of these can be automatically brought into the catalog through the profiling process. And, from your experience, can you share with us, how automated this process is, and how much of, activity the data stewards are involved to collect additional attributes which are important for the business?
Yeah, so the operational and the technical metadata, as mentioned earlier, is probably going to be the most auto-generated metadata that you're looking at, right? As you profile, right? Because part of cataloging your data assets is you will do a full profile, right? And you can do just a surface level profiling, or you can actually go further, much deeper, and do a much more detailed level scanning of your data assets. But depending on how deep you do your profiling, more and more technical and operational metadata will be generated. The metadata that will be least generated is the business metadata, right? Because just simply profiling is not going to give you the answers to that, right? So such as an example, who is the data steward of a particular data asset, right? You may not pick that up. What is the data definition of a data asset? You may not pick that up as an example. Is it PI or is it not PI? You may or may not pick it up. But it's those gaps that are created once the profiling is done, is where that communication and the interaction happens with your data stewards and your data custodians and your data owners, especially that reside in the business, where you will come together and enrich the business metadata that is important and critical to you, right? We don't want to go out and collect hundreds and hundreds of points of metadata or business metadata, because that may not be useful for the company, right? But let's say 10% or 15% of that 10 or 15 pieces of metadata, maybe 24, 24 is what you want to focus on, is what you agree with the business, that these are the metadata points that you will continuously manage. And that is what the data stewards will do with partnership of the data owners, right? Together, you will manage these metadata points for the company.
Nicely put, Samir. I want to go into another interesting topic here. I know you would love it: data virtualization.
Oh well, what is that?
All right. So so if you look at it, we did virtualization with multiple different ways. Like we created the persistent layer with the data lake. We also did the indexing with the different indexing servers, right? Columnar way, and we also held some of this data virtually in the memory. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what is the use case against a persistent layer versus an indexing concept versus the completely going in memory.
Well, so make data available. Make the data that you need available to fulfill your use case and only your use case at that point in time, right? So there is no need to have 1,000 data points with all the metadata to simply put report A together, or to simply have maybe you have a technician out in the field servicing a particular piece of equipment, because we do that a ton in manufacturing. We have a service organization out there looking at our equipment, making sure it's performing properly. There is no need to have the entire data repository made available to a particular service technician, right? It's just not. It's just overkill, right? So make only the data that is necessary for that particular use case to be fulfilled by that particular individual at that point in time, available to that person, right? This would limit the drain on the data management piece of things, and allows the queries that run to move much faster than they would have you made the entire data set available, right? So that's just a couple of examples of how you would make use of that.
Great, Samir. I want to move on to the other important area within the catalog, which is getting to know all the unknown facts about data, right? Which is like building the entity relationships, and also automatically building the lineage across the applications. So from your experience, can you share with us, how you use these concepts to the best advantage for your business?
Yeah, I think a data lineage is a interesting topic, and I can speak to a particular example. I'll go back several years when I was running data governance for a financial services organization. This company's business model was, let's go out and collect data from third-party providers, bring them into the organization. We're actually going out and paying for this data, right? Create it in data products, and then entitle and permission that data products out to end customers and clients. And so as you are sourcing for this data from third-party providers, and over a period of time, what happens is, if you don't have a proper governance program in place, you may be duplicating purchases of data along the way, right? And putting it into your repositories, and you'd be storing the same data asset multiple times, which costs the company a lot of money, right? So it's basically you store once and you use the data many times, right? So here was a perfect case for data lineage. Why? Because if you track the data from its source, where it came into the organization, and you look to see through Lineage if that data asset was being used in a data product. Because if it was not being used in a data product, guess what? It was not going to make its hands into a customer or client, because it was not a product that we could have sold, right? It wasn't in a product. That piece of data was not in a product that we were selling to a customer and client, because through Lineage, it never made it into the data products repository. So what would you do there, right? There are two things you could do there. One is if you're not going to make use of that data asset, and now you know that you're not, because it's not in a data product, you can then go back to the source of that data and reduce your contract size with them, saving the company a ton of money. Instead of paying X, I'm paying 0.8X for the same contract, right? Because I'm not using the data that I'm purchasing. Or you can conversely get smart about it and say, if I have all these data assets that are unused, right, have been not used in a data product, can I then engage the business and product managers along the way to create new data products with unused data assets? And if you can, then you have a potential revenue generating opportunity for the company that you didn't have before, right? So that's just an example of how doing simple data lineage can either A, save you money, or B, help you generate additional revenue for the company. And if you can live in those two areas as a data professional, you are doing an absolute great job for your company. You will be noticed for that, and that's what we all want to be as data professionals.
Thank you, Samir. I want to go into the, some of the importance of, having touched on the data professionals. One of the critical area for data professionals is to be a data citizen. And I find this to be a very interesting and important role. In spite of the engines, whatever we have within the catalog, to be able to do a lot of things in an automated way, still there is a crucial role for the data citizens to play. Can you, from your leadership role, can you give us what does this role look like? What do they do?
Yeah, so the three typical roles in the data support structure, as you'll see, the data custodians, data stewards, and data owners, right? Three individuals that work together, three entities that work together to manage data, right? And this is outside your data architect and data modeler and all that. We all know that they're part of the data groups as well. But what happens with data is at times it's considered to be an esoteric topic, a topic that only selected individuals will understand, and sometimes that is not the best way to represent a data organization to your enterprise, right? Right now, the way the world is that there is nobody out there is not touching data. We are all in some way or another touching data, generating data, consuming data, reading it, understanding it every single day, right? And so what that has then created is this type of data citizen concept, where in your respective companies, it's not only about data. It's not only about the data architects and the data stewards and the data modelers, but it's about everybody, because everybody in that company is looking at data, reading data, consuming it, creating it every single day. So let's get everyone involved in the data program as best as we can. And this is how the data citizen concept has come about, is that we make data simple enough so that we can involve everyone in that in the process, right? And so when everyone feels engaged in the process, great things start to happen, right? Once you disengage a particular entity or body of individuals, then you have a program that is set up not for success, rather failure, right? So let's not keep data at the esoteric level. Let's boil it down so that we can increase the level of involvement across our respective organizations to have as many people involved in that data management process.
Thank you, Samir. And I just wanted to share a little bit quickly on the Chainsys smart data platform, which is it offers the Data Zen's product, which is got great data catalog features. It gives you end-to-end capability of right from the metadata management and the data profiling, building all the relationships, lineage, and the business glossary registration process for collecting additional business attributes which are essential, and also the data governance and doing all the data citizen. And more important, it got the complete AI assisted data tagging mechanism as well. So, this, Samir, you and I, we worked together for the previous project at Vertiv to bring great discipline among the data and to bring also trust to the organization. Just wanted you to give your thoughts on how Chainsys tool helped you in building that standalone cataloging needs within Vertiv. And what did you like, and is there anything suggestions for us to improve?
Yeah, look, the data catalog is I think probably your newest product that you have developed. So I was able to participate in the actual creation of the data catalog. Not that I've done any of the development conceptually on what it should do. So it performed well, no doubt, and you will make a vast number of improvements along the way, only to make it better. Because to me, the more interactive it becomes between the user and what it is that you're using, the better off the catalog will be, and it will be accepted much wider, right? So in terms of the specific improvements that need to be made, we can take that offline and we can talk about that. But you're off to a good start with that catalog, and just continue to make those improvements, and it will be one of the better ones that are out there over a period of time, for sure.
Thank you so much, Sameer. And we are coming to almost the end of the half hour. I just wanted you to, as a closing remark, do you have anything for our audience? Your, thoughts, please.
Yeah, of course. I think so. I think the focus today was on the beginning of the process, right? If the beginning of the process is not right, nothing else downstream will work, right? So as simply as if your architecture diagrams when you're designing a house or a bridge or something are not right, your construction of that is not going to go well either, right? So let's ensure that we're off to a good start. Let's get the data catalogs enriched with all the metadata that you think is important for you and for your company. And from that point onward, everything else that you do, you'll see, will flow much easier, right? And as long as we can remove all the impediments along the way and allow data to flow freely in the company through our enterprise, the better off you're going to be. So make sure your data catalogs are enriched and partner with your business to do that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sameer, for your time and great insight into the data catalog and also into the data security, two critical pillars for any data program. And so we will continue this wonderful, insightful Quest for Knowledge program again tomorrow, pretty much the same time. We're going to touch on enterprise data management and master data management tomorrow. And, stay tuned. And thank you so much, everyone.